All right, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. So first off, I'd like to introduce David Jones, a highly knowledgeable brokerage manager. He has years of experience guiding both agents and advisors. And David is known for breaking down complex concepts into simple, actionable strategies, as you're going to see in this IUL presentation. And now I just want to briefly touch on Insurio. So Insurio is completely free when you sign on with Penny. So I'm going to briefly touch on some of the offerings. So you get a dashboard overview where you can instantly see your leads, the recent activity of your leads, the sales pipeline. You get a quote path workflow, and this is a guided step-by-step process for quoting, basic info, discovery questions, underwriting. You get contact management, so you can keep every client's full history in one place. It offers marketing automation, so you can launch automated email campaigns, schedule calls and texts, and enroll clients. It also offers agency tools where you can manage multiple agents or brands under one account. It also offers reporting, so you can build, save, and export custom reports. And we offer training and support. So you can take advantage of the Insurio Academy. We offer built-in tutorials and contextual help to quickly learn and master the system. And this is by far my favorite feature of Insurio is you get a website automatically built for you. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to David.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for being here and being interested in this topic. I am fired up. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm fired up about this one. I like this one a lot. And it's all about kind of a high altitude flyover on how to sell IULs, the concept of the max funded, specifically IULs, to maximize income. And I know it says to help your clients and maximize their income here. We're talking about retirement income. So what we want to do is utilize the different levers you can pull on an IUL to just maximize their cash accumulation so that they can take it later on in retirement. And I can show you how to do that tax-free and legally. Tax-free legally, which is good. And and I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody, we're having weekly webinars almost every week, at least, I believe. So sign up for those, show up for those, really good stuff. There's some in the can already if you want to take a look and pull them up and review what we've already done. Almost every Thursday, at least, we are doing those. So just a reminder about that. Today's agenda. We're going to go over why IULs are such an effective tool towards cash accumulation and retirement supplements. Max funded IULs for structure, growth, and tax benefits. I think that's what I was just talking about. And how to position IUL in retirement strategy. It's not the end all be all. It's not the one thing one should do. You probably want to be talking to somebody who has a diverse portfolio and has other strategies in place, but it is the answer to a lot of questions. It's the solution to a lot of potential problems. And go over again, as I often do, your role as a trusted advisor. Anybody who's been in any of my webinars or has talked to me as an agent learning anything will know that I early on say, hey, we're not here to be a sales agent. We're not here to be somebody who pushes product. It's not a one size fits all. You're a trusted advisor. We want to make sure you're talking to your client, figuring out what your client is all about, and then again, providing solutions and answers to their questions and potential problems. So keep in mind that we are talking about their financial portfolio. We're talking about their retirement, their savings, all these things, and never take that lightly. You're not a financial advisor unless you happen to be a financial advisor. Most of us are just licensed life insurance agents. But you can help them, you can advise them, you can listen to them, and again provide solutions and really good options for them that they may not have otherwise even known about. The bar for entering our industry is low. Basically, you got to read up, you got to take a test. If you can pass a test, if you're good at it, and you got some good uh, instruction on how to take the test, you're probably going to pass. Most people that I know pass on the first try or within the first 5 tries at least. And so the bar is low to get a license, but the bar to become a trusted advisor, like I want everyone to be, is high. It takes a skill level, it takes an approach that is different from just push, 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 sell, sell, sell. If you want to sell more life insurance, talk less about life insurance, more about your client. I know when I first started, and I just a little background, I got first licensed in 1996, so a little while ago. And back then, it was instructed. You do not even talk about life insurance for the first 5 minutes or so. So that was back in the day of the old kitchen table sit. Some of you might be familiar with that, where you go and knock on their door. You have an appointment, you show up for the appointment, you go in there and you read upside down from a binder and do a presentation, but never even talked about life insurance for at least 5 minutes. Um, Keep in mind that honest money goes further and lasts longer than fast money. Same kind of concept. You don't want to be a salesperson necessarily. You don't want to be just an agent. You want to be an advisor. You want to be honest with them. You want to know about them, ask questions about them, and figure out what their specific situation is, and really care about it. It makes it a lot more interesting anyway, and you'll have a more uh, lengthy and beneficial career. It's a good way to go about it. You'll be very happy, and so will they. Um, Always ask yourself if you do this for your own loved one. Uh, I had a guy, I was talking to him about one of these one time, and he said, "Would you sell this to your mom?" Well, you know what? That's a valid question. And yeah, in fact, I just not too long ago, just recently did a presentation on one of these for my daughter and son-in-law who are in Texas, and they've got their own agent. I'm not bitter or anything. It's a friend of the family, and so that agent was showing them an IUL, and I took it upon myself to run a different illustration for them and show them what I felt was a better way to go about it, with without any commission. Let the other guy take over from there. But anyway, so yes, absolutely, it's a good question to ask, and yes, absolutely, I would share this with my loved ones. And you also, on the other side of this coin, want to know what you don't want to be. You don't want to be this guy, the guy who pushes big death benefits for anybody and everybody. Uh, Typically, that's tied to commissions, something with high fees, somebody who doesn't have good customer relations, doesn't follow up with their clients, doesn't listen to their clients. Easy stuff here, right? um, has weak policy design. Sometimes you just don't even realize it's a weak policy design. You guys are going to learn in this presentation the difference between a good one and a bad one. And again, don't just push products. I'll give you an example of this, and you could probably find them yourself these days online. But there was, I don't know if it's still out there or not, but there was somebody out there really selling webinars on this similar topic of getting the money, taking loans out from a policy for small business owners. But the way they were going about it was they said, get $1 million in coverage, no matter what. They hadn't even talked to anybody yet. Whoever you are, get $1 million in coverage and make it whole life. Well, you know what? Whole life is probably the most expensive way to go about it. It's not a bad idea, and it's appropriate sometimes for sure, but it's not appropriate for everybody. It's not one size fits all, but they were doing a one size fits all presentation. And so these people that went to the webinar and paid good money for it, by the way, they were charging quite a good amount of money to attend these webinars. This one's free. You're welcome. And they didn't get any follow-up. They didn't get any support afterwards. They were just told, get $1 million in whole life, and they're finding out, oh my God, that's so expensive. I can't afford it. If I had money, I wouldn't need to get this to get a loan, because they were under the impression that they could just pay a monthly premium, get a whole life policy, and take out a substantial loan immediately, which just does not work. Um, so we don't simply sell a product, we help people. That's the goal. And again, you'll have a much more fulfilling, lengthy career in this industry if you do it this way. It's very satisfying. I'm not stressed. I'm happy to help people. It's a real good thing, and I've been doing this a little while. So we help people to pay less in taxes. I'm going to show you how to do that and why that's specific to this particular presentation and what we're doing and how we present these IULs. Grow their money safely. The title of this is the power of 0%. 0% comes into play here on a couple things. One is there's no risk of a loss. You got a floor of 0%. I'll touch on this in more detail later, but you've got a floor of 0%. You're not going to lose any money. And if you do it right, you get 0% taxes on the money that you take. So protect income for life. This can give you an income in retirement for 20 years to life, and as long as you do it right. And we're going to show you how to do it right. So let's get into the max funded IULs. So it's not just an IUL, because you can design these any number of ways. Some much better than others. But we're going to look at max funded IULs. The whole purpose of this, again, is to accumulate the cash value and let it percolate and grow, and then take it upon retirement to supplement Social Security or pension or whatever you may have. What an IUL is versus what it is not. Okay, so it is designed to be permanent coverage. It When you look at an illustration, anybody out there who's seen them, some of them go out farther than others. Some of them you can run them out forever. Some of them, different lengths of time. However, it is defined as and meant to be permanent insurance, and there's always a guaranteed column in these. You have to show somebody the worst case scenario. That is, if the market tanks every single year, and the carrier charges the most for the life insurance possible allowed every single year, and the client doesn't do anything about it every single year, it'll still be in force up until usually age 85 at least. But something like that, you can run them out and make them permanent. Cash value growth is built into these. That's the point. It's tied to an index or a number of indexes. Think of it like your 401k. You had choices each year to move your money 25% here, 50% there, whatever you want to do. You can do the same thing with this, but it's not actually invested in the market. I'll go over that too. Also, IULs as a life insurance policy usually, almost always, offer living benefits. Almost always you're going to have a chronic illness rider and a terminal illness rider included. Prudential has their BAR, Corebridge has their QOL product, which are like a suite of living benefits. So if the person runs into bad health or some situation like that during their life before they get into retirement, they can draw on this policy to help them out in a financial crunch. And it's a great retirement supplement. Definitely, if you do this right, it's a great way to supplement, again, your pension or whatever you may have working, your investments and your savings. An IUL is not an investment, and I did touch on that briefly, but you're not even supposed to say investment when you're presenting these. Most of you don't have a securities license. If you do, fine, that's a different thing altogether, because even though this is tied to the performance of an index, it is not actually put into and invested in that index. So it's just kind of mirroring the performance up to a point and down to a point as that index performs throughout the year. Usually, we're going to talk about a 1 year point to point, but it's not actually invested in there. That's why it's not at risk. So, good thing to remind yourself: don't call it an investment. It's not, and that means it's not nearly as risky. It's also not meant to replace other aspects of someone's portfolio. If they've got a 401k or other investments and savings you might want to replace, but depends on what it's doing. It's not there to take away from something else unless it's performing poorly, and this is going to perform better or be less risky and things like that. So it's appropriate sometimes. Again, you got to talk to your client and find out what their situation is. Don't be shy to defer to their financial advisor. If they've got a portfolio and they've got savings and investments, they've probably got a financial advisor who's been following it for a long time, and you can defer to their best advice and even work with them maybe to see if it's a good idea to maybe move some of this into the IUL. This is not some hot new trendy product. All right, it's not the end all be all. Hey, this is the hot thing that everybody wants to do. They've been around since the 80s, um, or at least ULs, Universal Life, have been around since the 70s, 80s, and IULs specifically have been around since the 90s. So decades. And so we've got a lot of history here to work with and know what's going on. Again, that mitigates some risk. Past performance is no guarantee of future performance, but at least you get an idea. You can look back 20 years and see what's going on. And there are two main types of IULs. There are those that are primarily for the death benefit. Okay, we're not talking about those. You can do that. There are other products out there that may be more appropriate, may work better for that kind of a thing. It depends, but it's an option as something for just the death benefit. Fine. But what we're talking about is a maximum cash value IUL. It's a minimum death benefit. Oftentimes they can go down to 100,000 or less. And you do the maximum cash accumulation by overfunding it or max funding it to the best you can do without creating a MEC, which is a modified endowment contract, which just basically keep in mind that that gets the IRS all over you and gets them concerned. They suddenly say a red flag, this person's putting away too much money on a tax deferred or a tax free basis. So suddenly they're interested in what you're doing. So you don't want to do that. But there's a lot of flexibility there. There's a lot of uh, ability to put plenty of money in and not be taxed on it without triggering that MAC. And it's usually an increasing death benefit. So even if you start at the minimum, say you just start at 100,000, it will go up, and we'll look at illustrations that show that, but it'll keep increasing to where it goes all the way to your retirement age, and then you can stop paying on it and then start drawing on it. And we'll talk about what happens there. Yeah, it reduces at that point, but it works out very well, and it outpaces that MEC trigger, the modified endowment trigger. So if there's a certain amount, it keeps increasing, which allows you to put more money in, which kind of outruns that issue. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Good things about an IUL and who it would be good for. Is it's a permanent death benefit, like we talked about. It's leaving a legacy for their family because it's got the death benefit to it, just in case you don't live until 100 or whatever you plan on doing in retirement. It's good for people up to the age of 55 for the maximum cash value. It's actually in particular situations, it can be for people older than that, even 60 years old, but then you're probably talking to somebody of significant means and assets that are able to fund it up front within say 5 to 7 years. But that's a whole different story. When you run into those, fantastic, bring them to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about how that works. And mid to high income clients looking for tax-free retirement. And I put in here this 10 times rule. 10 times rule is pretty simple. It's based on their age. If they can safely and comfortably put aside 10 times their age per month. Say if they're 40, okay, $400 a month, this will probably work very well for them. Uh, Diverse portfolios, people, like I said, with 401k and other investments, it's a good thing for them. It's just another facet of their retirement plan. It is bad for get rich quick people. I think I mentioned the guys out there doing webinars, and they're selling webinars and said, yes, you can get money immediately. You can just get this policy, and you can take out money right away. Just put in a little, and suddenly it's got cash value that you can grab, and you don't have to qualify for a small business loan. Nah, don't be that guy. That doesn't usually work anyway. Okay, the basic elements of an IUL. Um, Essentially, it's like a teeter-totter, or like I say, like a circus balloon. If you squeeze one side, it gets bigger on the other side. You squeeze the other, it goes the other way. It goes up and down depending on what you're doing. If you do a higher death benefit, it's going to lower your cash value accumulation and potential because of the higher fees for the higher death benefit. If you do a lower death benefit, like we like to do, it becomes a higher cash value, lower fees, and more potential for the accumulation. The non-guaranteed cash value is usually illustrated at around between 6 to 8%. I'll show you some illustrations here momentarily and show you that piece of it. Popular indexing strategies such as the S&P 500. Not only is it popular, it's probably the most common one, and it's a really good one to present and to illustrate. Well, because it's performed well, it's performed for a long time, it's been around a long time, people know what it is, they're familiar. So keep it simple, you know. Here's what this does. Everybody knows what it is. Again, it's not some uh, Johnny come lately great thing that's going to blow up and you're going to be rich. No, it's steady and it's been good for a long time. The cap, which is the most it's going to do on your policy, is usually between 10 to 12%. So there's a cap on these things, and there's a floor. So the cap is usually around 10 to 12. Right now, the one that I ran is 11 and a half, I believe. And then the floor is zero. Again, zero is your hero. I'm sure you've all heard it. Um, that means if the market tanks like everybody knows it did in 2008, and it loses 30, 40%, you don't. Your money isn't literally in the index. It's not going to take that ride down to the negative 30%. It stops at zero. Um, Conversely, if it goes up 25%, okay, so it stops at the cap, 11.5, 12%, whatever that is, but it mitigates risk. So let's take a look at a couple different illustrations. This one is the bad design. Um, you don't want to do it this way. Not good. Not so well designed IUL. This is the one if you do the higher death benefit and it gets you a lower cash value. So I hope you can all see this at least well enough. What this is I ran an illustration for a 45-year-old male. Happens to be in California, best rate class possible, and it's a $500 monthly premium. And so there's the $6,000 premium outlay per year. And so after 1 year, the guy's 46 years old. It's for 400,000 in death benefit. So this is a level 400,000 death benefit. That's the wrong way to go about this. Typically, it's higher than it needs to be, and it's level, so it's not outpacing the contributions that you might otherwise be able to make, and so it's not as flexible and so forth. I put this big box here to point out red flags. Whenever you're reviewing somebody's in-force policies, good idea to take a look at an in-force illustration so that you can see if these kinds of things were taking place, or even if you're running it yourself through WinFlex or whatever, these things will jump out at you and it'll tell you, this isn't so good, we can improve on this. What this is showing is the cash surrender value of the policy, which is nothing for a few years, and then it's barely anything for the next couple of years. by the end of 5 years, in this particular example, the person's put in 30 grand, and if they walked away from the policy, what's that, like 5 grand, eight, or is that 8 grand, whatever it is, it's nothing. It's not good. So moving on to the next page, same illustration, just going out farther. This is to year 20, so the guy's 65 years old now, and he's put in 120,000. Just simple math. It's the 6,000 every year for the 20 years of the policy. He's at 120. He's going to retire. He's 66 years old, and he's this L over here is just indicating he's going to want to take income now. All right, so he's taking it as a loan. I will get into that in a minute. That's critical, that you take it as a loan. But he wants to take $20,000 a year to supplement his retirement, and he starts doing this, and you can see what starts happening to the policy. Face amount immediately starts decreasing. The cash surrender value decreases. The accumulation value of the policy, it goes up a little bit. It's still outpacing things a little bit, but here's what happens and why this is not so great. Next page is the end. All right, so I'm just showing you the 3 pages of this. And now he's 75 years old. So he's only 20 years into retirement. And so this policy is now, he's taking the $20,000 and it's done. Actually, he's only 10 years. I'm sorry, 10 years into retirement. So that plan for him, the 20,000 per year, only lasted 10 years. And then he's without a death benefit and he's without income. And if you're like me, you're planning on living a lot longer than that. So it's not like that's phenomenally terrible. Again, it's not ugly necessarily at this point, but it's not so great. So here's the way we like to do it. A well-designed IUL. You lower the cash value, you maximize the contributions, and that's flexible. Again, you probably want to stay within a 10 times rule, but whatever they're comfortable with, and that maximizes the cash value accumulation. And it's an increasing death benefit. So even though it starts at the lower end, it increases, and that's secondary anyway, really. The primary purpose of this is to get a cash accumulation so you can take it out in retirement. If, God forbid, your plan doesn't work out, something happens, your beneficiary will get a tax-free death benefit check out of this. So it's there as a more of a safety net than anything. And we're looking at the S&P 500 index, again, the high cap. So this is the one that everybody knows, and it performs well, and you can take a look at the last 20 years and show them what it's done despite the downturns that we've incurred in that time. Boom. This one, similar setup. It's $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. It's the same 45-year-old guy. And so after 1 year, what we did here different though is we started at 100,000. So it's $100,000 death benefit instead of 4, but already after a year, you can see it's at 104 and some change. So it's gone up already because we've got the increasing death benefit on this approach. The cash value, where I had a big red flag here before, it's already gaining cash value from the get-go. In fact, after 5 years, the surrender value is almost equal to what he put into it. And if we keep going down farther, we're going to go to the next page and show the same situation as where the guy goes 20 years into it, and now he's 65. He's put the 120,000 in, and he takes the loans. He's 66 years old. He's going to take $20,000 a year on this in the form of loans. Why do I keep talking about the loans? It's important because that's how you take the money and distribute money to yourself and use it any way you want without being taxed on it. So you can, a lot of people think, hey, this is a tax deferred thing and you'll be taxed at your future tax rate, which is not so bad. Usually work out fine. It's better than that because, again, I'll get more into it in a little bit, but you're taking a loan, which is due back, which is paid out by the death benefit because it reduces based on what you owe on the loan. And so even here, by the time he's retired, we're over 300,000 in the death benefit because it was increasing the whole time. It went from 100 to over 300. So that's good. And then he starts taking the 20,000 per year in the form of participating loans. And look what happens. I go to, again, the same 3 pages. And now this goes all the way out to age 85, and he still only put 120,000 and he stopped paying on it way up there when he retired. And he's now gotten $20,000 a year for 20 years. So he was putting $6,000 a year in for 20 years, and then he took 20,000 out for 20 years, tax free. And yeah, you can do that. Indexing strategies, I won't go too deep into this because these things change on a regular basis, and you probably want to talk to a financial advisor and read all about them and check the performance history on these. But if you do a cap focus one like the S&P 500 high cap, um, I would say for illustration purposes, you probably just want to go and do 100% on that typically, unless they're really wanting to do different things and mix it up a bit, then at least 80%. But for illustrative purposes, starting out, you do 100%. The cap on these policies, again, usually 10 to 12%, and that's how it's illustrated. That's how it was illustrated in what I just showed you. And one of the good reasons, again, that you show the S&P 500 is not only do people know it, but it's been around for a long time. It literally started in the 50s and has a history prior to that. Before it was the S&P 500, it was the S&P 400 or the 200 or whatever it was back all the way back to the 20s. So it's been around. You can track its history. It's done well. The participation focus type indexes or indices. Don't put any more than 20% in there if they insist on looking at it. They're the bright, shiny ones that have higher participation rates. And, Barclays, Pacesetter. Yeah, Pacesetter is another one that's out there sometimes called volatility control. But they're relatively new compared to the S&P 500, and the reason they have a higher participation rate so you can get higher returns is because frankly they historically have not performed as well, and they don't go back nearly as long. They're relatively new. You can run the historical performance on those and show people all about it too. Not that you discount them and discard them, as just be aware of that. Things to know: risk. We already talked about that. The risk is, okay, you don't make any money if the index tanks in a year. Not a huge risk there, but different indices have different approaches to it, and so you want to maximize their accumulation. Um, Increasing versus level death benefit. I showed you that if you do 400,000 high death benefit and make it level, it's not nearly as good as starting out lower and having it increase and allow you to contribute additional money. Index options, absolutely learn about them, know about them, read about them, talk to your financial advisor about them, but keep in mind those things change. And for the purposes of this, I say KISS, keep it simple and proven, and talk about an S&P 500 high cap. And then back to the participating loans. If you noticed, I said you can take this money out. In this case, the guy in the illustration illustrated at $6,000 per year for 20 years, and then took out 20,000 per year for 20 years tax free. And some of you may be saying, how do you do that? Well, here's what you do. Tax-free income on participating loans. How? Okay, it's a loan. So you're literally taking out a loan on this policy. It's a life insurance policy. It qualifies as such, even though they tried to say it didn't when it first came out a long time ago, but it does. It's a life insurance policy. You're taking out a loan. A loan does not fall under any of these taxable income categories. So typically you're going to get taxed on earned income. That's, you go to work, you get paid an hourly wage or an annual salary, whatever, you're going to get taxed on it. Fine. Passive income. Okay, if you have rental property, maybe you're like some in California who moved out of California and you kept your California house and rented it to somebody, and so you've got some passive income coming in. That would be taxed. Investment income, if it's invested in the market and you make a gain on it, you're going to pay capital gains taxes and any other taxes appropriate for whatever you make in the market. This, again, is not literally invested in the market. Another reason why you shouldn't even use that term. So, being that it's none of those things, it's not taxable. So you get 20 grand a year for as long as it lasts after in retirement without being taxed. Take income for 20 years to life, tax free, and then you don't pay it back. It gets paid back by way of the reduced death benefit when you pass away. If you outlive the death benefit, more power to you. It served its purpose and it did well, but you could see in the illustration that I ran, um, there's a death benefit all the way to the end. Even if you died at the end of the plan, the fact is there's still a death benefit to be had for your beneficiary. And always, again, going back to the be a trusted advisor. Uh, Ask these questions. This is how you present it. This is how you should talk to your clients, not come in and say, hey, you need to buy a $1 million whole life policy. Um, no, you need to ask them what they're doing about their life insurance, what their plans are. What are you looking to achieve, and how can I help you achieve those goals? The fact of the matter is, if you ask simple, open-ended questions such as that, you will get uh, just meaningful answers, and you will learn a lot about them, and they will share with you. You will become trusted and get to know them very well within a few minutes. And then you say this, okay, you listen and you take notes and you say, hey, based on what you've told me, this strategy could be an extremely smart move for you. Now, typically that's the strategy we're talking about. If it's some other strategy, that's the strategy you show them, you present them, you provide them, whatever's appropriate given their particular circumstances. But oftentimes it's this max funded IUL. And then you ask this. This is known as a soft close, maybe the closing question. Uh, Mr. Client, if I can help you achieve your specific goals, and you name them off, are you ready to get started today? And if you've listened to them and you've provided viable solutions for them and intrigued them with this kind of a strategy, they're typically going to say yes, and you show them more and start running illustrations and doing things for them, and you get referrals. Very, very important because you're not only making one sale, you talk to them about their spouse, so you make a second one and you're covering the family appropriately, and then you ask, always ask, if you don't ask, you don't get for the referral, because they'll be happy to tell you about one of their loved ones, usually a family member that is in the similar situation, and they trust you now and they value your opinion. So they say, yeah, talk to my brother George or whoever it might be. Um, Real quick, obviously, we want you, if you haven't done so already, to get contracted with Penny Insurance Center. Why work with Penny? Well, we've been around since 1972, so over 50 years. Mr. Jan Penny started the agency, and then it was actually a Transamerica agency to start with, but then branched out to other carriers and went nationwide. So we are in all 50 states and DC, and we work with over 60 carriers. All of our services and tools are free when you're contracted with us, so take advantage of that. You get all the benefits of our app fulfillment team, our delivery team, underwriter. We have our own internal underwriter, which is invaluable, and there's a bunch more. and you don't have to pay for it. Uh, can't beat that. Our universal application, which is part of our Insurio platform, which Chris touched on early on in this presentation, you can submit the same easy application no matter which carrier you're quoting. So it quotes within that platform, and then you can apply. By the second or third time you use that universal life insurance application form, it's easy. You know exactly what it's going to ask for. You know exactly what you need, and you just submit it, whether it happens to be Corebridge or Allianz or whatever it is that you're doing. Um, and Firelight is coming soon. That's a big thing. That's where you can submit applications for IULs. So trust me, it's coming soon, and you guys can have access to that if you contract with us. And very robust platform for that. Not every agency, not all BGAs out there have that or offer that at all, and we're happy to do it. And back office support again. If you wish you had the team, if you're out there on your own and you wanted somebody to handle your applications, or you went out and tried to hire somebody to do this and support you, run illustrations, answer client questions while you're out on a sit or whatever you're doing, or maybe on the phone, how all these things work, we do all that. We've got our own internal wholesaler who will run illustrations for you. We have an entire team, a whole brick and mortar building full of people that are behind you and will help you. So now I will open it up to questions. So Chris, if you're monitoring things and see any questions going on, what have you got?
So, first question, what are the best carriers for these max-funded IULs?
Great question. There's a bunch of them, and of course, I'll go back to it depends on the circumstances. But here's the ones that I like and that have done very well. Corebridge, obviously, I just ran. That's what those illustrations are from Corebridge. They've got great ones. They illustrate well. The rates are good. What I was showing there is their max accumulator IUL, so that's a good one. North American has good ones. F&G, I may have mentioned them. Allianz has a great one. National Life, back to Allianz, they've got a feature where you can lock in the rate. So if you are watching the markets and you're seeing your index is up 10% and you want to lock it in, you can lock it in. Let's say it's September and it's at 10%. You're like, okay, I'm good. Just lock it in at 10%. Even if it were to tank the last quarter of the year, you're locked in at 10%. So, okay, if it goes up higher, you're not going to get the higher amount. Okay, fine. But it's really good for those that pay attention to such things and don't want to take on greater risk or get nervous when the market goes skyward and floorward on a regular basis like it's been kind of doing lately. So it's a good thing.
What client situations or profiles make IULs the strongest fit?
Um, Again, I would say it's somebody who is of has some assets and maybe at least middle class and maybe higher income, but they have to have some money to work with, right? Because again, that 10 times rule, if somebody's 35 years old and they don't have an extra 300 bucks per month or so to put into it, maybe not a great fit. But for those that do have it, or maybe have money in a savings account, something like that, or a CD that might not be performing great, it's great for them up to age. I say up to age 55, but once you get all the way through, say, anybody from age 35 to 55, and that gives them plenty of time for it to grow, accumulate cash, and realize the uh, the distributions in retirement. Those will typically be good. Obviously, it's better the better health they're in and whatnot, because they'll go through underwriting. But it's a matter of asking questions and seeing where they're at and what their goals are, and if this will help them attain those goals.
And here's an interesting question. When would you not recommend an IUL?
Well, okay, so I have been approached for some who hear the basic concept of this. Oh, I hear that I can get a cash value policy and then I can get money out of it and just get a loan. Like maybe I needed a loan, maybe I didn't qualify, maybe I just need the money. So I want to give you some money to place a policy in force. And then I'm gonna grab 5, 10 grand out of it. That's not how this works. And although there's a bunch of people out there that are kind of saying that's how it works and people are believing them, it really doesn't work well unless that person has a ton of money to pour into it right up front, which means they probably wouldn't be in that situation anyway. So those who think it's a get money or get a loan quick without having to qualify is probably not a good fit.
And how can we use an IUL for a business owner to help offset their taxable income? And is that possible?
So if you're talking about putting money into it on so that it's not taxable because it's a business expense, talk to a tax advisor. That's always the answer to those types of questions, because it can change from state to state. It can change from the type of business and how they're doing it and whatnot. So you don't want to get yourself in a bad spot giving tax advice. Tell them to talk to a licensed tax advisor. But I think typically if somebody's a small business owner and they're trying to like write off the premiums on such a thing, probably not.
Cool. I think that was the last question.
Okay. Well, take this opportunity to again say thank you so much for everybody for being here and listening. I know it was kind of long and my camera shut down pretty early. So I hope didn't just go over things too quickly, but I didn't want it to last too long. We're, into 20 some odd slides here, and appreciate you very much. Again, if you haven't done so already, let's get contracted. Let's talk, get contracted with us, and we'll help you out with this and any other things you're doing life insurance wise.
And we'll also be providing everyone who registered a recording of this webinar. So we thank you for joining, everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Bye.